Mr. President, I do want to get right to the news of this week.
Sure.
The terrorism in Boston.
Yeah.
Many people have wondered if it took you right back to 9/11 when you heard it.
Well, at first, I was deeply concerned that there might have been a organized plot. I don't know all the facts. I don't think we all know all the facts, but I was deeply concerned that this could have been, another organized, highly organized attack on the country.
And I said, we've had such terrible loss of life. Maybe the smartest thing to do is pull it. And they made that decision to pull, and then we watched the building collapse.
Grimerica.
How do you bring a building down symmetrically, much less in 7 seconds? You have to cut all 80 columns in this building. Otherwise, the building would begin to fall and bend and fall over towards the path of least resistance.
Okay, guys, welcome back to the Grimerica Show. We are going to be chatting with the one and only Richard Gage a little bit later.
From Architects and Engineers for 911Truth.
That's right, yeah. So that's big get. Of course, the timing's great for 9/11. We have a great chat with Richard. Kind of get down to the nitty-gritty. Some Building 7 stuff. You guys should enjoy that quite a bit. And a little later on in the intro, we're going to jump into, we've got one of our great bloggers over at the site is also a 9/11 survivor. Some of you probably already know that, who follow Evan's work, but he's going to join us and tell us about recount his experience of escaping the towers.
From the 89th floor.
Yeah, he was only like 10 floors below the impact force.
Four floors below.
93 and 83. Oh, 89. Yeah. 4 floors. Yeah. Jeez.
Math.
Yeah, massive bitch. Massive bitch sometimes. So yeah, check. That's great. You guys are going to enjoy that. And of course, we got one and only Graham Smartass Dunlop over here. How's it going, man?
Hey, it's good. Really good, yeah. Remind me later on in the intro, I'll talk to you about, I'm excited about this big episode because you've been going down the 9/11 rabbit hole a little bit more lately. You've been into it, and we've talked about sort of doing one. Like we were going to do a whole month with a bunch of them. But I mean, we'll get into some of the more deeper conspiracies in another episode. But this one's pretty kind of fundamental. We got, Evan who survived it, and Richard Gage who talks about the evidence for controlled demolition and all that. It's pretty scientific and bare bones kind of.
That's right. And of course, for those you don't know, that's Richard Gage is the head of, or the founder of Architects and Engineers for 9/11Truth, which I think is almost at 3,000 signatures now. 3,000 signatures, members, whatever you want to call them. I think you're supposed to call them signatures.
Oh, are you?
Yeah. And of course, guys, we'll jump into this right away. Check out grimerica.ca/support. There's a bunch of different ways you can support the show there. Of course, without supporters like that, we wouldn't be able to do these sorts of shows.
It's huge. It helps us. We can't do it without you.
So yeah, check out grimerica.ca/support, guys. There's a bunch of different monthlies there. If you can sign up for one of those, of course, that's the best. Everything from $1 a month, which is about 25 cents a show, all the way up to $33 a month, which is, I don't know, like what, $6-7 a show.
Keep it ad free.
Yeah. There's a bunch of stuff in between, and we can keep it ad free forever and ever. So check that out, guys, if you can, when you can. Of course, that's going to be access to our Black Budget support feed, which is just a little thing we started just last month, just to sort of help not only reward the people that have been supporting the show and allowed the show to continue for as long as it has, but also to sort of maybe stimulate some other people to hop on board the gravy train.
Yeah, exactly. And we had extra content. We want to put out some extra content, so we figured that'd be a good way to do it. And it doesn't change the regular Grimerica. It's still got like 4 to 5 shows a month in the regular feed, but we do have a bunch of episodes in the Black Budget feed right now. Probably, 9 or 10 in there now?
9, I think. Yeah.
And so are you going to play a little preview? So the latest one in there was Red Pill Junkie and Alex Sakaris from Skeptical.
Yeah, so I've got this.
Huge supporters of ours. Like, big thanks to Alex and Red for everything they've helped with the show.
This is... from, of course, our buddy Failed, friend of the show. Very prolific in the chats. Check out grimerica.ca/chats, guys, if you haven't already, to get in on the conversation on the Discord app. Those guys are great. Find love in the Grimerica chats. Actually, there's only like 2 or 3 girls in there, so probably not going to have much luck finding love, but you'll find a bunch of cool guys.
Grimsteak beat the odds.
Yeah, Grimsteak beat the odds big time. It's like an 89% fucking male ratio. At least that's what YouTube tells me. YouTube's the only one that gives you that sort of a breakdown. So anyway, Phil was lucky enough to make he made this from actually our first 2 real recordings. So some of it is from the Trip Report episode, and some of it is from the
Alex and Red episode. Okay, so we had an episode recently. It's been put on the Black Budget feed with Alex and Red.
They're both the August shows. One was at the very first day, and one was on the very last day.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is that was a pretty good discussion, pretty good heated discussion. We get into some really good banter back and forth, and some good conversation, and little
somebody ice with that. Yeah.
Come on.
Sorry,
I lost it. All right.
Yeah,
all right, just play the thing then. They can.
He sort of plays it off like switching through the dials on a radio station.
Oh, that's what this was?
Yeah.
If I remember right, it gets pretty heavy, this one. So, oh boy. So stay with us. I've been mulling this over for several days, and I think I should just put it out there and stop trying to find the right words. As I'm sure you guys know from personal experience, trying to explain a trip or a synchro is much like explaining a dream. It often falls flat and fails to convey the feeling. But what the hell, here goes. Forgive me if I ramble. Okay, the year was 1997. It was springtime, about a month before my 18th birthday, just to set the scene. I was a long-haired white kid that listened to classic rock and things like Primus, Clutch, and Alice in Chains. My best friend was a 6-foot tall.
Grab my shoes, and I don't even fucking stop to put them on. I just look behind me, and I'm out the door in my fucking socks. And I'm fucking down the road, man. I ran fucking probably 3 blocks before I stopped to even put my shoes on. Don't even know. And I'm I realized I don't even know where the fuck I am. What part of the city? And it's it's gonna take, this is before smartphones and shit. So I've got a flip phone in my pocket, that's it. And I'm trying to figure out, actually, you know what, at that time I don't even think I had a cell phone, or my cell phone was lost.
To license
to just show me the right path, and I would do all it took to accomplish it. I believe strongly that entheogens are sacred ways to connect with the other or spirit, and the removal of these world's major religions. We got to the town, met our friend, and drove over to the entrance to the stony beach, and it was kind of down in a bowl.
I just don't feel like you have to hold back on anything.
Well,
there's only 17 people listening.
We might end up getting a little bit, a little bit polarizing. We were sort of emailing back and forth some questions and some stuff to talk about, and with this current climate of, social engineering and free speech attack and all the violence going on, it's pretty crazy. And we're talking about how do you live, how do you live in this world? How do we be skeptical and critical and follow evidence in this super polarizing political and cultural climate?
Vacations they have, women have 6 months of leave, when they're pregnant.
Yeah, I feel like socialism, I guess. I mean, they're also the highest tax countries in the world.
It's the right kind of socialism. It's because these guys went.
We're falling victim to what we set out to kind of correct. This is the whole thing. How are we now talking about socialism? How did we even get to talking about Trump? How did Trump even come into the conversation? And then how did global warming and climate change come into the conversation?
Talk about belief systems, and so what if there was this evidence like this movie? So, spoiler warning. If we're going to talk about it, probably what's it called again? The Discovery. So I mean, so what happens if that comes up? What?
You're so lame sometimes.
What?
Spoiler
Sorry,
alert.
buddy.
Spoiler warning.
So what?
Same thing.
Same thing.
No, you ruined it.
So,
Thanks,
what if that
failed.
came out? And,
Okay. Information overload is a real problem of our time. When you really can't process any more information. You are, checking out that data coming out of Facebook, Twitter, social media, and if you're hitting also the news feeds.
Go to Grimerica.com and donate today to get your access to the Black Budget support feed.
Bingo bango. Thanks, Phil.
Yeah, thanks for putting that together.
So, of course, that's a little compilation of the first 2 eps. Of course, there's like 7 other episodes in there we had kicking around that you can check out as well. And you can get access through the webpage now, too. I made a webpage-friendly version for the people that don't have pod players. So if you email me, if you don't know how to use the RSS feed, you can go through the webpage and play everything and download everything that way.
Oh, did we mention that it's like any donation gets you access to it? Like anything. One time, anything,
Try not
any
to just
monthly.
do a one-time $1 donation.
Yeah, can you do $1? There's got to be a minimum, isn't
I
there?
think the minimum is $1.
Really? Yeah, try to do.
We got a $5. I still gave it to him.
Yeah.
So check it out, honestly, guys. And if you can, it helps out big time. Helps us kind of keep growing and pay off debt and pay the bills and keep the heat on. Winter's coming, hard and quick. So what else you got?
I got some feedback from last week's episode, Todd Akamesis and the Synchronicity Walk. So this is from Rob. He emailed in. We love getting emails from the listeners to feedback, stories, synchronicities, sightings, all that good stuff. So he says, I've just finished the episode, and this is Todd Akamesis Mind Spa episode, and it was another great one. I really relate to Todd's perspective and thoroughly enjoyed the progression of the conversation. I've been having some experiences recently with lucid dreaming and astral projection during a phase of intensive attention towards being mindful for these to occur, as I think it's something akin to the way will works and is directed as a kind of energy through the navel rather than something that can be controlled in normal waking consciousness. This is also a similar way I think to prayer and mantras and so on, how they work, because it conditions the conscious to be present to the non-physical dimensions in a way that still feels very abstract to me. I was also experimenting with different meditation techniques, buying a crystal singing bowl, the HeartMath M-Wave device, and that was after listening to our episode of HeartMath. That's from a few years back.
With Howard?
Howard, yeah. And on top of this, I was consuming many hours of podcasts and interviews on these subjects whilst working sometimes up to 10 or more hours a day. Yeah.
Whilst.
Yeah, that's a UK thing. I think this all has enabled the conditions for lucid dreaming and astral projection. Now, on the other hand, I feel distant, more involved with my day-to-day life and work, and have not been having such experiences. When I have a few more minutes, I may describe them if you like, but now I know they are available with the right kind of work and intention. Yeah, it's hard. I want to put a more really focused meditation practice into
work.
Let me
choke you out with the belt.
Sure.
You can NDE it up a bit.
Can we do it live on YouTube?
Yeah. I don't want to get charged.
Grambo's head go purple.
You have to sign a waiver.
So Todd's Mind Spa in London is actually the other side of Old Street roundabout from where I work, about 2 to 3 minutes walk away. I'll get in touch with Todd and let him know I listened to the episode and get booked in for the experience. So
I'll give you a 5.42 for that little synchro.
Looking forward to hearing from that experience, Rob.
Absolutely.
Let us know how the Mind Spa goes.
Okay.
Anybody else in the UK too that gets to London, man, make sure you drop by and say Grimerica sent you.
Isn't everybody in the UK in London?
Jesus. Don't be daft.
Profound UFO quote of the week.
I like how you say daft like you're a UK or you fucking... You bloody cunt.
That's not fair. Oh, where did it go? I just had it here too. Oh no. So, this is the UFO quote of the week. Based on unreliable and unscientific surmises as data, the Air Force develops elaborate statistical findings which seem impressive to the uninitiated public unschooled in the fallacies of the statistical method. One must conclude that the highly publicized Air Force pronouncements based upon unsound statistics serve merely to misrepresent the true character of the UFO phenomena. That's from Yale Scientific Magazine, the Yale University volume XXXVII by 37. Number 7, 1963.
1963? That's the year Kennedy was shot.
That's because Marilyn Monroe was going to blow the whistle on UFOs.
Was it 63? I could be mistaken, actually. I'm just talking.
67, I think.
Wasn't 67.
No?
Hey Siri, what year was Kennedy shot? Hey Siri, what year was Kennedy shot?
The answer is the 22nd of November 1963.
What day was that quote?
November 22nd, 1963?
Oh, that's the day JFK was shot.
Oh, April 1963.
Oh, way off.
Yeah. Nice try.
Yeah, I was trying to do some on the fly.
Yeah, on the fly synchronicities.
Yeah, on the fly somethings. I think that's probably it, eh?
Yeah, it sounds. So you know what? I did a. Have you ever done a locked room, or like the escape room type thing?
No, why don't you save that though?
Save it? Well, it's not that big of a deal.
Okay, go ahead. Go ahead. We'll call it.
It was. No.
Both jingles are playing.
Jeez. Okay. It feels really loud.
Yeah, it's pretty loud.
I hope they're going to level that out later.
I'm not good. I accidentally played both jingles at the same time.
Good job.
Yeah.
So anyways, we went to the
we're
locked
a two-man show here.
I always thought this was going to be a cheesy sort of, sort of simple experience. You know what I mean? These locked room things. Have you ever heard about them?
No.
Come on.
No.
Escape room?
No.
Are you serious?
Yeah, I'm serious.
Okay, they're all over the city.
Okay.
And I was just avoiding it. I heard about it. And it was an Egyptian theme one. So there's all different themed ones, right? So this is an Egyptian tomb, like escape, and you got like 3 rooms that you have to escape from. There's a bunch of puzzles that you have to figure out.
Really?
Yeah, it was really cool.
That sounds
It's actually really fun. So the team of us went. My buddy Rye and Mark. Mark's been on the podcast before.
Mark?
And Rye, that my buddy who moved back from Mexico, and his friends, like
RH negative Mark.
Yeah, probably.
You mean probably?
I don't know. I don't remember that part.
Mark is always talking about RH negative?
No, that's Mike.
Mike, right.
Yeah.
Sorry, Mike.
And Mark. Anyways, we, and Rye's buddy is like a dungeon master. They play D&D and stuff. So I didn't know this at the time, but these guys are pretty smart and geeky in a good way. So the guy's, he's just sitting back with his hands in his pockets and picking out things. What about this? What about that? Anyways, we rocked it. We went through both rooms, and then you have to go back to this other room and figure out the puzzle, and we finished it off. We're like, what's going on? Are we done already? 24 minutes. We ran.
Is that a record?
Yeah.
Where is it?
We shattered the record.
Send me the thing.
We shattered it.
I'm going to go by myself.
You wouldn't even be able to get out. It's only 43% success rate in an hour.
Really?
And we got out in 24 minutes.
Ooh,
we blew it. We skipped the last puzzle. Like we figured out.
A team of locals. We're going to go down, eat some edibles, and do that shit
just
in 22 minutes.
In the first room. You won't even get out.
I'm going to beat your record. We got to beat.
It was a lot of fun. I was pretty happy with it.
Put the address in the show notes so that people can go down and try and beat your record.
Okay.
And tell them to mention Grimerica.
Yeah. It was cool because it was the Egyptian theme, right? About all the Egyptian episodes we've done and all that, it was pretty cool.
Nice.
Maybe we should do a Grimerica one and one of the other ones. There's a bunch of them around the city.
We'll do a synchro walk in an escape room.
Yeah, that wouldn't work. No, it's not. You need to be really focused on the puzzles.
Yeah, I bet. I'd try it out. That sounds fun.
Hey, you're going to talk about the website URL for people.
I already did that.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
Oh.
Keep up, man. Didn't I? Yeah, sure I did. I think I did.
Thanks for updating the website anyways. That's good.
Hey, anytime, man. Anytime. All right, guys. I think that about wraps it up. We'll keep it short and sweet so that we leave some time for our chat with Evan here. It's a good one. And then after that, we'll jump into our chat with Richard, which is another good one. So prepare for your 9/11 double whammy, motherfuckers.
All right, for this special 9/11 episode, we've also got one of our listeners on the line here with us on the podcast, Evan Forish. I think, is that how I pronounce your name, Evan?
Ooh, also a blogger.
That's it. You got it.
Yes, and I wanted to say, because I've recognized his art from Instagram as well. He's really fascinating art. I think Nap also connected us together. Yep. And yeah, you're a survivor from 9/11, and you offered to come on and talk about the event and your experience with it. So we really, really appreciate the willingness to do that and the honesty.
Oh,
so
yeah.
thanks.
It's great to talk to you guys.
Yeah,
Plus,
thanks.
a therapist once told me that the more I talk about it, the better.
Oh, so. Good. Yeah, talk therapy. Talk therapy has proven. Maybe that's what's we're good health in Grimerica, because we talk things out. Talk therapy has proven to be helpful. So
it's helping Graham.
All right.
So I mean, that must have been a scary experience. I mean, do you want to just? I guess we should start by just maybe walking us through the whole thing, and if you can.
Sure. Oh yeah. Well, it was it was scary. It was. I have to say for sure. I didn't know it at the time, but I was definitely in shock. While it was going on, because my friends and coworkers remembered a bunch of things that I wasn't all that clear to me. But
wow.
I was on the 89th floor of the World Trade Center Tower 1, North Tower.
Yeah.
Which floor? Sorry.
89th floor. Yeah.
Oh man.
And I just got to work that day. It was, 8:20, 8:30, and I sat in my little cubicle and it was just like looking at a friend's website or something, and that was it. There was this loud sound, like it was like being underneath a subway train. Like if you hear this roar coming, and then it's over you. And in that instant, my chair jumped up in the air and landed back down. And by the second hit the floor, the parts of the ceiling had collapsed, and I could see from where I was. I could see the front doors of the office. And they also faced north, so they had blown in, like they had blown. I guess like if there had been a backdraft. Yeah. So they blew the other way, and I was kind of stunned and wasn't sure what to do. And one woman ran. There was about a 20-person office, and there were 5 of us there at the time. It was I guess early, just the start of the day, obviously. And she ran out into the hallway. And to see, which stairwells to go to or something. And we tried to follow her, the rest of us, the other 4 of us, and we were just kind of overcome by smoke. We went around, we went into this kind of storage room, copy room, and there was another exit there into the hallway. So we made our way through there. Some of the shelves had fallen over, but it was such a narrow room. We could still walk our way or crawl under these metal bookshelves. And by the time we got out of that room, there was a lot of smoke and stuff. We opened that door, and the other woman who had run out said, all the stairwells are locked, but I found this office right next to ours, which was a little bit smaller. They had a bunch of people in there, and the phones were working, so we went in there. And people started calling their families and saying, "Oh, we're okay." We had no idea what happened. My thought was maybe, a pipe burst or something on my floor. I, no idea what was causing this.
Yeah.
And someone had on a radio, just a music radio, and they quickly broke in with what had happened, that a plane had hit the building. We were pretty stunned by that, although we were already pretty stunned. And
which was the impact floor again?
I just looked some stuff up again before I talk to you, but I think it was 93 was the lowest. It was like 93 to 96 or something, or higher.
Yeah,
I don't know.
That sounds about right.
So it was close to us, and possibly part of our floor also, taken out. I don't know, but 93, I think, was the bottom of it. And so we were in that office for a little while, and people were calling home, saying, hey, we're okay, but I didn't want to call because I wasn't okay yet. I was thinking, once I get out of there, I'd call them.
Yeah, exactly. If you don't even think you can make it down yet, you're not jumping the gun and saying everything's cool.
Yeah. But then these guys came, they were Port Authority, Port Authority security guys, and they had been going around looking for people and telling them they had cleared one of the stairwells from debris, and were saying, go down this way. So they helped us find the stairwell to go down, and went on looking for others. And I should have prepared with their names, because I know that they saved a lot of people's lives, and they ended up dying, those two guys, and they saved a lot of people. So they had pointed us to the stairwell, and we started down, and I don't know how long this is. Oh, I forgot one little detail. While we were still in that office, we felt a shake, a big tremor, and I thought maybe a ceiling or something in our building had collapsed, but quickly the radio told us that was the other tower being hit. And so then we knew that it wasn't an accident, whatever was going on. So
you were up there for a while then. That would have been 20, I think it was 20 or 40 minutes apart?
Yeah, we were, it took us a good 5 or 10 minutes to get over to that other office. And then was maybe another 10, 15 minutes. I don't remember the times exactly, but before that shaking. And then the Port Authority police came and helped us not too long after that.
Yeah.
To start down the steps. And then somewhere around they weren't too crowded as high up as we were. I mean, I guess a lot of people who could evacuate already did. But it got more crowded the farther we got down. And I think somewhere in the 50s, we were started on 89, and somewhere in the 50s, there was just too much water and debris in the stairwell, and we had to go through to another stairwell. And I was just following other people. I mean, I was, just going with whatever was going on, and people were lighting up everything was dark, and there were like walls caved in, and so we were climbing a little bit over some debris, and people were lighting stuff up with their cell phones. And I don't think I even had one back then, but we finally got to another stairwell and headed down. And somewhere in the 30s, I'm pretty sure it was in the 30s, we started seeing firemen in full gear walking up. And I'm afraid I have no idea if those guys made it out. I had very little interaction with them, but
yeah,
just thinking how incredible it was to be walking all that way with all that gear. And finally, we made it down to the landing, and I kind of remember seeing I don't know if you know the sphere that got like dented. I forget what it was actually a statue of, but it was a big like bronze sphere, and it got a huge dent in it from falling debris. And I think it's now in it's down there still. They have it in one of the parks. I remember seeing that and hearing a lot of thuds and things, which I figured out from some of the documentaries and stuff later that it must have been falling bodies. But also my friends and my coworkers clearly remember seeing some people in really bad shape, of bleeding and head wounds and stuff. And I don't really remember that, so I'm sure I was in shock.
Yeah.
And we couldn't go out that way. Like, we could see these big glass things that led out to, but there was so much falling debris there, they wouldn't let us out. And we had to go, I don't know if you're familiar with how the trade centers were, but there's a mall underneath, a below ground mall. And so we had to go down there, and it was at least ankle deep in water going through there, which is pretty incredible because there were subway trains, even like a whole lower than where we were, like a whole other level down.
Yeah.
For us to be ankle deep in water, that whole thing was underwater. entire train stations. And so we finally got to the staircase. They said to go up. So we went up, and we were out on the street. They were saying, hurry, run, get away. And we were thinking, hey, just walk down 89 flights of steps. I'm not running anywhere. But then we got maybe a block away, half a block. I'm not sure. I know it was Day Street, D-E-Y. And we felt the rumbling, and it was not our build tower, but Tower 2 that was coming down. And
Tower 2 came down first.
Yeah, and
Okay.
it was like a monster movie. It was like this big smog monster was devouring the building. It was, and like a monster movie, people were like looking up and pointing and screaming. And, I saw a CNN cameraman who wasn't moving. He was, trying to capture it, and I was sure that guy must have died in it. But then I tried to reach out to CNN or somebody, and as far as I know, they didn't lose any camera people, so that's cool. But with the smoke coming down, I think I'm leaving out a lot of details. There were 5 people in my office, and we were all together going down the steps. And at some point, we were separated from 2 of them. There was I was with 2 others, and there were these 2 other girls that got separated, and we knew we were going to be separated. We said, okay, well, because at some point the stairwell was crowded going down.
Yeah.
We'll meet you. We'll meet you when we get out. And so 3 of us were together. But then when that building started coming down, we just ran. We were not together anymore. And I ran towards. I was thinking if I ran north, maybe I could, outrun the smoke. Which is silly, if you're thinking logically, because it was above me. It was coming at me from every direction, not just behind me, but wasn't the clearest frame of mind. So I was running, looking for a store somewhere to duck inside, and I guess maybe a block away. I just happened to be on a block that like maybe one of the few blocks in New York where there's just not any stores there. There was the church that I was next to when the building started coming down, and I went around the corner, and then I was near Park Row, it's called, and the one shop on the side of the building that was like across the street from me, diagonally, I saw a door. I went in there. Actually, the smoke overcame me. It was totally black, and I had just made it to this door, and it opens, and a fireman pulled me in, and it was a coffee shop, and he, kind of went into the lobby of that building, which was in the process of being evacuated, and so there were lots of people in the lobby, and I realized I think I was the only one there, just totally covered in soot, and so people were kind of looking at me, and of course they knew why, but there's just this black marble lobby, and I realized after about 5 minutes that some of the marble black walls were not walls; they were windows. It was so pitch black outside that as the dust started to settle, I saw they were windows, and whatever evacuation they had going on, they just sort of let people wander out. And I wandered out into the street, thinking I would just go. I lived in Brooklyn at the time, but my parents lived in New Jersey, not too far away, and I just wanted to get out of the city if I could. So I figured I'd hop on the bus and go to my parents and hide under a bed for a while. And I got outside, and I was looking around and hoping to find my coworkers. And I was right by, I said this before, that I was right near Park Row, which is, I don't know if that's why they call it that, but buses park there. It's the beginning of some bus routes, and they go north from there. Well, some of them go north from there. And so I got on one, and I sat down, and looking out the window, I saw lots of people, some like me, covered in soot. And I saw one guy who looked like my friend Tom, who was in my office, and I started banging on the window, and I was so hopeful that that was him, and the guy looked at me hopefully, and it wasn't him. And I thought it was kind of dumb to think I would find him so easily. And someone tapped me on the shoulder, and there he was. There's my friend Tom, was already on the bus.
Oh, wow.
And yeah. And he said, he looked up to see who the crazy guy banging on the window was. And he asked, if I minded if we ride the bus together up to, and he was a little also in shock, but unlike me, who was physically untouched, he had actually been outside a little longer. I don't know if he made it into the same building I made it into. I'm still not sure about that, but he had actually been hit in the head with some debris and was afraid he had a concussion. So we headed north on that bus. Eventually the bus took off and started heading up. And at some point we weren't too far away. The streets were crowded, lots of people and cars. And at some point we felt the rumble, which I don't think anyone had to tell us. It was our building coming down. We saw some more smoke. It didn't get black where we were. The sky didn't, like before, but we were sure of that. And eventually we made it to, our goal was to go to Rockefeller Center, which is in Midtown. And his wife worked there. So he wanted to meet up with her before he went home. He also lived in New Jersey. So I was going to stick with him as long as possible.
Yeah.
And by the time we got there, Rockefeller Center had already been evacuated. So we wandered around. We went to a hotel, and they let us wash up in their bathroom and use their phones, which was very nice. I guess I'll give an ad for DoubleTree Hotel. Thank you. They helped us. I actually don't
we
think that
stayed
hotel
at a
there anymore.
DoubleTree for the first Paradigm.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah? All right, cool. I hope they let you use the bathrooms, even if you pay for them. So we, I called my parents, and he called he tried to call his wife, and he eventually, we found out where she was. She was waiting to hear from him, anxiously. She hadn't left the city yet. And so we met up with her, and I forget where. It might have been a restaurant. I know we ended up, I don't think so. We ended up going to, first we went to a Port Authority bus terminal, and it was just a crazy mess there. And we went to, we tried to take a ferry across, and the line for the ferry was just, it looked like days and days long.
So yeah, it's like everybody trying to get off the island of Manhattan, I guess.
Yeah, we waited in the ferry line for a little bit, I think, and then we gave up on it and decided to try Penn Station, which would be instead of a bus, it would be trains. And so the second we got in, Tom heard his town being called. And so I just went with them. They didn't really live that close to my parents, but close enough. I hopped on the train, and it was like a generally commuter trains, subway trains you can stand on, but those trains they don't have like people just standing on them. Everyone has a seat, or they take a different train. But this day, it was packed, as packed as it could be, and everybody was standing. And we finally got to I think Tom's parents' house, and I called my parents, and they came and picked me up, and that was it. I hid out in New Jersey for about a week or two, and that was my 11 adventure.
Wow.
That's it.
That sounds intense. That must have been a crazy day.
I was right there, like watching a movie there with him. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. What?
I was picturing the whole thing like it's like a movie kind of.
I see what you're saying there now. Yeah.
Did you hear like when those towers came down? Did you hear any explosions or anything like that? Like people say, or was there?
I didn't. I said I was in shock. There were definitely details I missed that my friends picked up on. There was the explosion that I'm guessing was just the backdraft. Because the plane came and hit the north face the way that we faced out.
Yeah.
But then the front doors to the office, which were I don't know how many yards back from the windows, but they blew in towards the windows. You know what I'm saying? So the plane came in one way and the doors blown open in the opposite direction. So. So if there was, I'm not saying there wasn't an explosion. I'm saying I'm sure it was a backdraft, but
yeah.
I didn't hear anything other than that particular explosion. And when we felt the Tower 2 coming down, when we were still in Tower 1, I didn't hear a series of explosions. It was I'm sorry, not the tower coming down. I'm mixing it all up now. Of course, when the plane hit Tower 2.
Oh yeah,
when we were still in Tower 1.
Yeah.
when the plane hit. I'm just jumbling things up now. I'm sorry, but no, I at no point did I hear multiple explosions. It was all the way I saw Tower 2 coming down. It was the smoke expanding out and coming down. It looked like the smoke was devouring the building.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't have anything that could help.
Yeah.
No, I listen to your show, so of course I'm interested in the conspiracy theories.
Well, yeah, I mean that's a hard topic to broach because you're a survivor of the thing, so you feel like you got to tread lightly with the conspiracy theories and stuff. But I mean that's why it's so nice to talk to you because I wonder what I kind of wonder about the process. If we can talk to you about like, you being involved in that terror attack, and then, there must have been some pretty visceral hate or anger or feelings about what happened, and then was there a transition to maybe questioning the general narrative of it over time?
Well, I was never ever a fan of Bush, and so. It was, I don't really think that he was involved. It's a lot easier for me to believe Cheney was involved. But even to say that is, I think, pretty strong words. So yeah. I don't know. But I was never a fan of them. And so I at the time, it was easy to say, how could they not? And as time goes by, more and more with them and all the presidents since, obviously there are Saudis involved. So, what's up with that? Our government really ignoring that fact. But I'm not sure where I'm going with this.
Well, here, I think I can help you. Okay, go ahead.
Being upset, yeah. I didn't want to rush into. I didn't think we should attack anybody without. They were saying we're not sure, but we're going to invade Iraq. That didn't. I wasn't crazy about that plan because I didn't think just blowing shit up for the sake of blowing shit up was, that's not going to help anything.
Exactly.
And they seem to use it as an excuse, obviously, to go in there for whatever motives they had otherwise. Yeah. And I'm glad they eventually did get bin Laden. But my anger was. It was there, but I never wanted them to just attack blindly, to blind retribution or whatever you might call it.
I feel like there's stages of awareness about that. Like I would have started almost like, well, how could they let this happen? Like how could these planes been allowed or been able to penetrate the most secure nation of the world, like that sort of part, like of denial of like, what the fuck? How did they let that happen? To like years down the road going, there's different levels to this conspiracy, like Joseph Farrell would say, where, sure, planes hit the building and then, did they fall because of the planes or was there some other level? And then there's the whole financial conspiracy. I mean, when you add up all of it now, years later, it's hard to imagine it, it being an isolated terrorist event.
It is. Some of the ideas about like the financial thing that they were, they had taken the gold out and that, that whole thing that they compared with the Titanic. They say they did the same thing on the Titanic, and I think that's pretty smart. Not to have done for real, but as a concept. It's like the I don't believe in the flat Earth thing, but that idea that how they've imagined the world really is. I thought that was brilliant, but I don't really believe that.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm saying is that the conspiracy theories. I'm not saying they're not true. I'm saying they're clever and very interesting.
Yeah.
But I don't know. There's I even like the wackier ones, like the which I'm not saying they're not true either. The planes were holograms and Judy Wood's energy weapons. That stuff's, if you're closer to believing it, it's terrifying, and if you're not, it's just really interesting ideas.
What about the main argument from the 9/11 crowd? I mean, I know it's still divided as well, but like the Truth crowd that says it was just like the buildings were demolished or not. It wasn't because of the planes and the fire, and then there's Building 7. Like, do you resonate with that? At least that they were what's the word I'm looking for, Darren?
Demolished?
Yeah, okay. I thought I was missing another term.
I don't know, I think it's definitely possible. I think it would have to be really well timed, I guess.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I just can't say for sure. It's not. I listen to these. I'm into conspiracy stuff. It's not that hard for me to imagine that it really did happen that way.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I can't say it definitely did or didn't, obviously, but
but you're open. Yeah, you're open to it.
Unlike UFOs, I don't want to believe.
Yeah.
But I don't know what to say. I think it is more possible than most people want to think it is.
Yeah.
I'll definitely say that. I think most people are in denial of how possible something like that actually could be.
Yeah, exactly. So what about your process of healing throughout that over the years? Like, did you have to? I mean, obviously, you talked about going to talk therapy or counseling and stuff like that. So has it been a pretty? Have you managed to kind of deal with the post-traumatic stress part of it?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it's still there a little bit, but I think of it as I was in therapy for a couple of years, and it helped tremendously, just really tremendously. Especially that when I was still in Jersey at my parents' the first few weeks, and then a couple months after, there were some I've always had mild depression my whole life, and I didn't even know it. Like, I wasn't sure what that feeling was, but when I had it from the just days after the PTSD, just the blackness, the just utter, like, for I don't know how many, a week or two at least, if not more.
Mm-hmm.
There was just this numbness. I just, sometimes you feel like you're tuned into things. It was the total opposite of that. I was just totally disconnected. I was disconnected from everything, and it was, and so therapy helped a lot, talking about it, and I think of it as I was in a war zone for maybe 2 hours. And so the people that the military who really are in war zones, who are, I can't imagine that level,
sustained. Yeah.
So I'm doing pretty well. If I have, for a long while, I had disaster dreams, but if I have them now, they're a lot milder, if that's possible. But, I'm slowly getting things back. Like, I used to love to watch like thunderstorms and things that are just loud crashes, or they don't really freak me out, but not as enjoyable as they used to be. But some of that stuff is coming back, or has come back much since for the last 16 years.
Well, that's a pretty good retelling. That'll tie in really well with our 9/11. Of course, we've got an interview with Richard Gage we're going to play next. But I did have a couple quick questions before we jumped into that. Sure. They'll become a little more pertinent later in the episode. Our listeners will find out. But did you notice in the months or weeks heading up to the attacks, if there was any elevator construction going on in either of the towers, or the tower you were in at least?
That's funny. Because I know what you're talking about, but I don't remember that at all. That doesn't mean it wasn't happening, just not something I recall at all.
Yeah.
I know that we got lunch in our office every day. They bought it for us because the way we were up on 89, and it took 20 minutes to go up. The journey from the lobby to my office was 20 minutes. Not because the elevators were slow, but because you had to go up one flight. You had to wait. There's thousands of people working there. You had to wait for the elevator. You got in. You went up to, I think, 40, 42. I don't know. When you got off there, I could be wrong about that number, but there's definitely an elevator switch. And then you wait again for a while, and then the elevator takes you to your floor. And
then you got to walk to your area.
Had a point with this. But so there's a lot going on with the elevators. So I think what I'm trying to say is, if there was construction, it would not have even fazed me. It wouldn't have been something I thought about at all.
Yeah, exactly.
So I'm sorry, I don't. I cannot confirm or deny.
No, that's okay. And the only other question I had is, you had mentioned in the start of that you tried a couple of the stairwell doors and they were locked. Is that normal? Do you know?
That was. I'm sorry.
Do you know if that's normal? Like, I know in most of the high rises I'm in nowadays, like, you can always get into the stairwell from the floor, but then a lot of times you can't get out of the stairwell on other floors. But you can always get into that stairwell.
Right. Well, I had heard it said that was definitely some conspiracies, that the doors were locked. As far as I know, they were. I never tried to go down the stairs, but I think they were supposed to be open, and I'm pretty sure that they were blocked because of debris. Falling. That was what happened when we had gone down the first stairwell. They had cleared out one of the stairwells. The guys who rescued us, who found us, they and I'm sure lots of others, and had cleared the debris. And so, as far as I know, that's why they were blocked.
I have a quick question before Darren finishes it off here. Do you have a desire for the truth to be known? Like, do you, I mean, are you,
yeah.
Like, are you more so than most people? Like, are you sort of hoping that something will finally be figured out here?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, if there are things to be found, I definitely want them found. I mean, there are. Yes. The short answer to all my ums is yes. I would like whatever truth there is to come out.
Yeah.
Well, I encourage everyone to head over to Grimerica.ca and check out Be the Rabbit Hole, which is Evan's blog on the site. He's got some great artwork on there. He's got the Grimojis.
Oh, that's
and
right.
some coloring books, and he's got some recounting. He's got a recounting of his 9/11 story there as well, and some really, really cool stuff. That's definitely worth checking out. Big thanks to Evan for coming on the show and for doing all this great content for the website.
All right, it was great to talk to you guys.
Yeah, thanks for being so honest and open about that. We really appreciate getting that inside scoop on what happened there.
All right, I hope it was interesting. It's my best story.
Absolutely, yeah, no kidding. I bet you have to tell that one quite a bit.
Yeah. Well, everyone I know is sick of hearing it, but yes.
Okay, well, big thanks to Evan for coming on the show. Check out his blog, of course. Big thanks to Richard Gage for coming on the show as well. He is coming up next. We did have a limited amount of time with him, but I think we did squeeze out almost an hour. So enjoy the chat, guys.
right, so tonight we have Richard Gage here, AIA, member of the American Institute of Architects and founder of Architects and Engineers for 911Truth, San Francisco Bay Area architect himself. It's really good to have you here, Richard. Thanks for coming on the show. How you doing tonight?
Thank you, Graham. I'm doing great, and I'm excited to be on this show and share with people, what really happened on 9/11 that they probably haven't heard.
Yeah, this is great. I saw your presentation, like we were just chatting briefly before we started recording, and at the Red Pill Expo, and I was pretty blown away, even though I'm somewhat familiar with your work and and the different types of evidence here. It was really good to see that presentation, and it was pretty mind blowing. So I'm really looking forward to digging into that with you and all our listeners.
Yeah, and I come from a world of high steel construction, so yeah, I'm looking forward to this.
Oh, great! I'm glad to hear that, Darren. That is important. We're going to have a lot to talk about today.
Yeah, I spend quite a bit of time in them. So
great.
So yeah, I guess we should start. I mean, let's not play around the corners too much here. Let's just get right into like World Trade Center 7, really, which is we can get into your background and stuff later if we have time. But I mean, I don't want to miss the most important components of this chat. So what do people need to know? Like, WTC7 is probably one of the most important parts of your investigation here.
Well, it is, and I'll tell you why, because this is a 47-story skyscraper that collapsed on 9/11. Now, who cares about another skyscraper that collapsed? Well, everybody should be caring. This happened on 9/11, and most architects and engineers are completely unaware that a 47-story skyscraper collapsed at 5:20 in the afternoon. After witnesses heard explosions, this building drops like a rock straight down, uniformly, symmetrically into its own footprint in under 7 seconds. And it looks exactly like a classic controlled demolition, like the old hotels in Las Vegas. So guess what? It is. And there's a lot more evidence to show that that's exactly what brought it down. And so that's why it's so important, because, what do they say? They say normal office fires brought this building down. Well, office fires have never brought down a skyscraper, ever. And so here, for the first time, we have an unprecedented failure in this fashion by office fires. Well, no, we're not buying it, and the evidence shows diametrically opposed to that. So we'll go through that.
Yeah. So, Darren, what would that be, like 47 stories? That it seems small because it's next to the Twin Towers, but
there's not much in Calgary that's bigger than that.
See, that's
like the new 8th Avenue place, I think, is about 750 feet. I stood on the tip of it when it was being constructed, and I think that's 49 stories plus mechanical.
Yeah, so I mean, that's that's one of the taller buildings we have in our city, so it's not small at all.
No, this is huge. In fact, most of the states don't have buildings that big. So why is this important? Well, we've had over 100 skyscraper fires that have been much hotter, larger, and longer lasting, and they've never brought down a skyscraper. So you'd think there'd be the biggest forensic analysis ever on the steel for this. And yet, starting 2 weeks after 9/11, it's carted away and sent to China for recycling before investigators could get their hands on it.
That was all the steel, wasn't it?
Yeah, and after that steel was taken away, all the steel, 99% of it, was including the Twin Towers steel, which is 200,000 tons of steel framing. Was taken away. Yeah. It's extraordinary, because what did FEMA say about that? The few pieces of steel, two, that were saved, that were documented in the FEMA report. The only two pieces they could get their hands on to document, they noted that there's a severe hot temperature corrosion attack on the steel. Now, this is a detailed metallurgical examination done in Appendix C of the Building Performance Assessment Report by FEMA in May of 2002. What do they say? Hot corrosion attack on the steel, molten iron invading the steel. Now, hot, molten, elemental iron, where does that come from? Where does the sulfur come from? Well, thermite is an incendiary used by the military to cut through steel like a hot knife through butter. It issues 4,000 degree temperatures of molten iron in order to cut through steel. So they basically documented the use of thermite. In fact, thermate, because sulfur is added to thermite, so it becomes thermate, which is much more effective at cutting through steel.
Is that the same as the nanothermite that you hear all over the place? Is it the same thing, just another way to call it, or?
No. Thermite has been used for 100 years in the, starting with the railroad industry, for welding. And so what we've also found, a small team of scientists led by Niels Harrit in Copenhagen, throughout all of the World Trade Center pulverized concrete powder from river to river across lower Manhattan, a 3 square mile area with a blanket 4 inches thick of this incredible powder. How did all that concrete, 90,000 tons in each tower, get pulverized to a fine powder? But anyway, in it, that's evidence in and of itself of explosives. Mm-hmm. But through all the samples they documented contain these dual-layered red-gray chips about 1/16 of an inch long. The red layer is composed of iron oxide and aluminum powders, the ingredients of thermite. But at a nanoscale, we're talking of the particles are 1,000 times smaller than the diameter of a human hair. So this is a very sophisticated process developed actually by Lawrence Livermore Laboratory and Los Alamos Laboratory. This is called nanothermite. That's where what you've been hearing about. It is a very, very high-tech substance made only in the most advanced defense contracting laboratories. And this is documented in a peer-reviewed paper in the Bentham Open Chemical Physics Journal. So we've got to have an investigation here that acknowledges all of this evidence, including also found in the dust by the U.S. Geological Survey and by other independent environmental consulting firms like R.J. Lee. They document billions, in every sample, billions of these previously molten iron droplets. They're about just naked, almost naked to the human eye. You can see them. They range actually up to about 1/16 of an inch round, but they're spherical. So they're previously molten iron. They're made of elemental iron. It's not melted steel. So it doesn't come from the fire or the steel. Where does it come from? Well, again, molten iron is the byproduct of thermite. So if you had thermite cutter charges laced throughout the columns and beams in the building, and under explosive conditions, you would aerosolize the byproduct of that thermite, which is what? Molten iron. So aerosolized liquid, by its surface tension, forms itself into these spheres. So this is exactly what happened to these multi-layered red-gray chips when this team of scientists subjected them to an intense heater. At about 800, 900 degrees, they ignite, producing much hotter temperatures, showing that it's an energetic thermitic material. And they release what? These spheres, the same spheres that the USGS and R.J. Lee found in all of the World Trade Center dust. So we know exactly where they came from, because they didn't know. They merely speculated. So it's a very much a self-corroborating set of data that could put a lot of people away for a long time if we can get it into a court of law.
So there's no way that was there, and that was in Building 7 too. The same thing happened in Building 7. There's no way that could happen from pancaking.
Well, yeah, there's 47 floors. We'd expect to see 47 pancakes in pretty bad shape laid at the bottom of Building 7 and the Twin Towers. There's 110 floors each in those buildings. About a dozen of those floors are 8-inch thick concrete. So we should have seen all those pancakes stacked up, but no, we don't. We see a pile of core columns, perimeter columns at the bottom of the towers. Where did all that concrete go? It's not laying at the bottom. Well, if you look at the photos and videos, they all tell you where they went. They're pulverized in midair, causing this powder, basically like an ash that we talked about, spreading across lower Manhattan. So in midair, we're talking about pulverizing all of the concrete. And so this is extraordinary. This doesn't, crack up and break when it hits the ground. It is pulverized in midair. As well, we have laterally, freely flying 4-ton structural steel sections, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of them, landing up to 600 feet away after having been expelled at 60 to 80 miles per hour laterally out of the side of the towers, freely flying. So this takes extraordinary explosive force to launch those projectiles.
That was some of the steel you're talking about that was flying?
Yeah, absolutely.
Wow.
And for the most part, concrete tends to just keep getting harder. Like
it doesn't dustify,
it's not like it's old concrete, like in my experience, the older concrete gets, it just gets harder and harder.
Right.
Oh yeah, it would take incredible concussive force to break up concrete into powder. I mean, as well as the metal decking that the concrete was poured in. Altogether, 220 acres of metal decking is missing. It should also be stacked up with the concrete down on the bottom. It is absolutely missing.
That's crazy.
And the concrete should be like adhered to at every place via all the Nelson studs and everything. Like it shouldn't be able to, there should be massive pieces of, I would think even with explosives, even with standard explosives, there would be massive pieces of concrete and Q-deck all over the place.
Yeah, held on to the rebar, right?
That's right.
You see a twisted nest, a rat's nest of rebar down at the bottom, but you don't see concrete adhering to it anywhere.
Wow. So what other direct evidence is there for WTC7 then being a controlled demolition?
Well, we have the complete. We have a moment-resisting steel frame structure where the columns and beams are rigidly welded to each other. That's the way this building was designed.
Okay.
And yet, in the pile, you have 4 to 5 stories of a haystack pile around here. So what if any kind of a natural collapse, these very rigid column to beam connections should be maybe bent, but maybe this thing would tip over. But all of the column to beam connections had to have been severed in order for this building to fall like a house of cards, one floor
simultaneously. I might add.
Oh yeah, all the way. Well, good point. This building comes down symmetrically. How do you bring a building down symmetrically, much less in 7 seconds? You have to cut all 80 columns in this building. Otherwise, the building, after a severe local damage, would begin to fall and bend and fall over towards the path of least resistance. Well, if all those columns are creating no resistance all at once, i.e. by explosives, exactly the way they do in the old Las Vegas hotels in a controlled demolition, then the building can only fall straight down symmetrically. That's the only way to do it. And this is one reason we hired the University of Alaska, and we have Leroy Halsey, one of the top forensic structural engineers in the country, to undergo a 2-year, $300,000 computerized study to show what really happened to this building. It's the computerized study that NIST was tasked to do by Congress, but not just failed, but produced fraudulent reports, which are proven so by this new investigation, which will be completed and released finally in October. But we will have a progress report in a live-streamed presentation at the University of Alaska by his team on September 6th. So that'll be a very important milestone event as well for all of us to tune into.
Yes.
And then we're going to carry the results of that study. He's already said, in fact, he was testifying in front of a panel of a dozen attorneys, along with the rest of the, several other experts on the collapse of this building. And he was asked by a famous attorney, Danny Sheehan.
Yep.
And Danny says, well, on a scale of 1 to 100, what is the likelihood that fire could have brought this building down? Fire, of course, being the official cause of this building's collapse. He says 0.
Wow.
That's amazing coming from a professional. Structural engineers are very cautious and conservative, but he's absolutely clear about his findings. So we're very excited. So the university, in fact, is using this project as their flagship project. They're not afraid of the ramifications at all.
No, engineers tend to leave themselves some wiggle room most of the time.
Yeah.
So can you give us a sneak peek into that computer model and what it shows?
I just had one more. Is there no possibility that every piece of steel, every bolt, and every weld were just the exact same level of quality?
Well, even if they were or if they weren't, they wouldn't fail at the exact same time unless you had shaped cutter charges attached to them.
Yeah.
That's right. Like how a pancake should come. Even if it pancaked, it would be like slowly gaining momentum, right?
Oh, yeah. It would crash, and it would take the top floor crashing on the bottom floor. But even if that happened, you'd have to take out all the perimeter columns and the core columns virtually at the same time. And then you might get the top floor with the dynamic load crashing on the next floor and the next floor and the next floor. And that's sort of what they were saying happened over at the Twin Towers. But in the case of the Twin Towers, what they say is the 15-story section above the point of jet plane impacts in the North Tower, for instance, because of the weakening by the fires, this massive structure just fell all at once and then crushed every floor beneath it all the way down to the ground. And by the way, that happens in nearly free fall acceleration, meaning that those columns and beams were just completely ignored somehow by this falling mass. Well, they can't be ignored. Of course, they had to be explosively removed. But then in the official story, they say then it destroyed itself. Well, this is like asking a Volkswagen to run into a Mack truck and destroy the whole Mack truck. I mean, that's the physics of it. There's equal and opposite destructive force here.
Huh. So the computer model, so what's the difference, do you think, between what NIST officially says happened at Building 7 compared to what this new model is going to show, this new computer model is going to show?
Well, NIST has a hypothesis that these raging fires in Building 7, which, by the way, no photo or video shows a raging fire. They're all few, they're all small, they're few, and they're scattered. And they say this fire was occurring at the time of the collapse on floor 12. Mm-hmm. Now, the photos all show this fire moved well beyond that area, and so it couldn't have been responsible for what NIST says is thermal expansion, the first cause of collapse by fire of this type ever. It's a new phenomenon, they say. Well, that couldn't have been happening because that area was cooled down for an hour before the collapse. But anyway, they say this thermal expansion caused these long span beams to push the girder that is supporting them off of its seat on this column number 79 in the northeast corner. And that caused a local failure, causing up to 10 floors to collapse by pancaking. And then the interior of this building is gutted basically vertically in that northeast section. And then this instability travels laterally across the building. Now, all this happens in about 20 seconds, they say, including the top to bottom 7-second collapse that we talked about earlier. Well, actually, none of it could have happened for a whole host of reasons. First of all, the fire wasn't there anymore, so those beams weren't expanding at the time of the collapse, and they couldn't have expanded anyway because they're fireproofed. Fireproof columns don't get hot. That's why we fireproof them. So they can't expand. But even if they could expand,
that's a lot.
They couldn't have. Oh yeah, it gets ridiculous here because if they were pushing on this girder, well, the girder, according to the shop drawings, shows that it has shear studs tying it to the floor slab up above, which are heavy-duty pins. It can't move independently of the floor or the column to which it's attached. But even if that could have happened, it couldn't have fallen off because there's not enough thermal expansion movement in those beams to push it off the seat. But even if that could have happened, it wouldn't have because NIST omitted stiffeners on the ends of this girder, which would have kept the flange from folding because NIST said, well, it didn't have to push it all the way off. It only had to push it halfway off, and then the flange of the I-beam folded. Well, the stiffeners keep it from folding, but they ignored those. They didn't put them in their modeling. And even if all that could have happened, you might have had a failure of the girder, but not the failure of all three girders that are seated on that column, meaning the floor above couldn't have pancaked onto the floor below. So, and even if all that could have happened and it did pancake and managed to dislodge those heavy girders in the floor below, because it's the same design as up above, you wouldn't have had that pancaking collapse. But even if you did, you wouldn't have had this complete vertical failure
of the whole building,
in a matter of a few seconds vertically all the way up, because we would have seen massive deformation of the exterior perimeter steel structure as the collapsing was happening. It would have pulled it in, breaking granite panels and windows on a massive scale that we don't see in any of the videos. So this is all disproven. And in addition to that, even if that could have happened, you wouldn't have had the lateral failure of this building in a matter of 5 or 6 seconds without also telegraphing exactly what was going on the outside of the building, which is not done. In fact, the videos show that the main penthouse and screen wall up above drops all at once, meaning everything above the elevator hoistways, the central core columns, drops at once. This is not a laterally traveling instability whatsoever, or it wouldn't drop all at once. So that the videos disprove the NIST hypothesis 6 ways from Sunday. So that's what was modeled by Professor Halsey. And you know, he just took out column 79 altogether. Said, okay, what happens if we're going to remove this column instantly? There's no global collapse. There's just isolated local failures. So he's now going to be modeling, well, how do you get a global collapse?
Yeah.
Well, he's going to basically remove all the columns at once. And you'll see that on September 6th, hopefully you'll have this computer animation model. You'll see the whole building come down exactly like the videos show.
That's kind of like, because the way I picture it, even by that description, if it's a single column 79, even if all those things that couldn't happen could happen, including the last part of it, then it should topple over and fall off to the side.
Yeah, that's what a natural collapse, obeying the laws of entropy or chaos. You know, it's physics. The weakest link goes first, and then you have a successive failher from that point.
Yeah, but more local, not global. Like, you know, twist up and
fall off to the side and crush some cars.
So do you guys have any demolition experts on your team, or would the demolition experts agree with all this?
We have in our DVD 9/11 explosive evidence experts speak out. We have Tom Sullivan, who actually loaded explosives in buildings to destroy them. has some fairly famous demolitions, like the key span towers and I forget which dome, some Astrodome they took down for Controlled Demolition Inc., the top controlled demolition company in the country, which, by the way, interestingly enough, secured a contract for the cleanup of this mess. We certainly want an investigation of them, and of course, the security company under whose noses would have to have been brought many dozens and dozens of tons of high-tech incendiaries and explosives. So we're talking about Securicom, Stratosec, the company who had the contract for these 3 buildings, interestingly enough. Also, the elevator modernization that was going on in the towers the 9 months prior to 9/11. This could have given undercover operatives all the cover they needed to plant these explosives, because each of those elevator shafts was locked down. They're all next to the core columns and beams in the Twin Towers.
I was going to ask if there was any contractors in or anything like that. And they were on all 3 buildings?
2 of the buildings for the largest elevator modernization in the world. This was actually the 2 Twin Towers. Wow. It was documented in Elevator World, which March of 2000. There's a whole article in it. So we don't know that they're involved, but it's an obvious a place of investigation.
Yeah, I would say the elevator people could definitely get you.
Yeah.
Like that access to those shafts, that's at all the most structural parts of the building. Even today, in the more like, it seems like here in Canada anyway, it's gone more down the road of concrete cores with steel structures. But even then, if you have access to those elevator shafts, you have access to everything.
Well, there's only gypboard surrounding those elevators, and there was lots of complaints by the tenants about white powder on the desks due to the work that was going on in the elevator shafts.
Of course. Oh, my God.
Yeah. And this is why we have the Bobby McIlvaine Act this year heading through Congress. We will be, after the September 6th presentation of Dr. Halsey, I'll be in New York pre-announcing the Bobby McIlvaine Act and showing films in Manhattan on Friday night, September 8th at 6:30 in Foley Square, an outdoor film festival, where we'll be showing whistleblower Peter Ketchum in a film that we made of him. I forgot the title. But also Ed Asner narrates a 15-minute documentary on World Trade Center 7, which your listeners can see on YouTube for free.
Okay.
And it's a great way to introduce people to the concept of 9/11 truth, because everybody who sees it just is automatically sold on the controlled demolition of Building 7. And then they're more open-minded to the Twin Towers evidence, because, we all were quite affected psychologically on that day. Yeah. We're under attack. We're basically reduced to an infantile state of consciousness, wanting to know, what's going on. So we accept from the authorities the first day the explanation. Oh, yes, don't worry. This was 19 This was 19 fundamentalist hijackers, and we got to go get them in Afghanistan and Iraq. Well, we've killed more than 2 million people there. We've started probably another 8 wars since then, and we've lost civil liberties that our forefathers fought for. So we've got to have an investigation that looks at the cause of all of this and pulls the rug out from underneath the post 9/11 damage to America's reputation and the killing on a mass scale of people around us in the surveillance state that has resulted. It's all got to be brought down. So that's what this act does. It's designed after the Benghazi Investigation Act, And then we've adopted this, and Bob McIlvaine is who lost his son Bobby in the just outside of the North Tower. He is spearheading this effort to get congressmen to one congressman out of 535 to introduce it into the House. And so we hope the political environment will support that more than it does right now. But this is our effort going on into next year to really put some rubber under the wheels of the 9/11 Truth movement. So that press conference will be at the National Press Club on September 11th at 1 p.m. in Washington, D.C. So we encourage everybody to come down, because right after that, we're going straight over to Capitol Hill and begin the hand delivery of the Bobby McIlvaine Act package to all 535 members of Congress, including the petitions signed by 2,900 architects and engineers now, as well as the preliminary findings from the Halsey report.
Wow, that's great. So making lots of headway.
Yeah, lots is happening. And that night, for those of you who are in Washington, D.C., there will be yet another panel of experts in various fields of 9/11 truth, including myself and Peter Ketchum, who will be there as well. A NIST whistleblower. He worked for NIST for 14 years and was just shocked to find what they had done to the good name of that organization, because that leadership of NIST was replaced when President Bush came in.
Oh, wow.
And they've really screwed things up as far as truthful reporting and using the scientific method.
How long has he been whistleblowing about that now?
Just 6 months, I think. We've made a film that's a new DVD that's now out. Standing for Truth is the name of the DVD that he makes. And you can see that on YouTube as well. Peter Ketchum, Ketchum.
Yeah, I'll link to all this in the show note as well. And then was there something else I can link to on the press conference and all that, or is that on your site?
Yeah, our site, AE911Truth.org.
Yeah.
And the evening event in Arlington, Virginia, there's a Holiday Inn there. That panel of truth tellers, including J. Michael Springman, who has exposed the visas given to Al-Qaeda members, including some of the 19 hijackers by the CIA. A fascinating story. He'll be there in person. This is Monday night, 7 p.m. at the Holiday Inn in Arlington, Virginia. The website is dc911truth.org.
Okay, good. Yeah, I'll put that all that in the show notes for people.
Great.
So, do you want to? Can we just
jump over to the Twin Towers?
Yeah. Just to finish that off quickly here. Do you have any questions about that, Darren? Because it's being even bigger than the other 110 stories of steel. Like, I kind of have a question about the melting of the steel. Like,
well, my biggest thing on the Twin Towers is just that the odds of natural collapse being able to take down both those towers in the fashion that they came down seemed to me like completely out of this world. For those same reasons, that everything has to fail at the exact same time. Otherwise, at some point, it topples over to one side.
Yeah, it doesn't look anything like natural collapse. And it's contrary to a classic controlled demolition like Building 7. It's a very explosive event. As I mentioned, these huge 4-ton structural steel sections are ejected laterally at up to 80 miles an hour, and they land on the Winter Gardens, which is 600 feet away, and all around. Outside, many of them, the boundaries of Ground Zero, the World Trade Center complex itself. This is an extraordinary explosive event. The steel is laid not in a pile. Well, there's a 2-story pile at the very bottom, but most of this steel is just evenly distributed across and beyond the streets bounding this complex. And then you have, before the toppling occurs, up to 20, 40, and even 60 stories down below this zone of destruction, you have these explosives going off, huge explosions that are hurling solid particles out of here, because NIST says these are puffs of air being produced by this the giant piston. This hammer, if you will, a 15-story section of building pushing the air down like a piston. Well, what we see in the videos is that 15-story section is first destroyed in 4 seconds. There's nothing left of it after 4 seconds. That's when you begin to see the downward progression of this destruction. So it's much like Building 7, actually. In the first 4 seconds, these upper sections of these buildings are destroyed. They just telescope down on themselves. So there's nothing to create a piston of air. And anyway, even if that were true, this air pressure was building, and that's what produced all of these squibs, or isolated explosive ejections is really what they are. You would have seen that air come into these open spaces, 60 feet on one side, 35 feet on the other. This is a very open office. That air would have equalized and then blown out all the windows if it blew out any of them. Not these highly focalized, geometrically precise explosions occurring often in an engineered pattern. So that's what is a dead giveaway as well. And then the building is completely destroyed, both of them, in under a dozen seconds. Yeah, that's near free fall acceleration.
Yeah, you'd think that whole top section, the 15 floors or whatever, if that failed in the middle and the whole thing collapsed, you think that would, even if it did collapse truly from that, you think that would be just in the end at the bottom, there'd be the big top section left. Like, how did that just destroy itself?
Even if it pancakes, you got to think that even if the floors are 6 inches, that there should be 55 feet of concrete at the bottom.
Exactly. You add up that concrete, and some of them are 8 inches, about half a dozen, or a whole dozen of them, at least. And there's trusses underneath, 2 foot or 30-inch deep trusses, which would have cushioned one floor impacting on the next, right? Would have acted like a big spring.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
It would have absorbed that energy rather than even cause or continue a pancaking collapse. And they're missing, too, by the way, 6,000
joists.
2,000 joists. Yeah. So where did they go? This is extraordinary. So if you had nanothermite, and these chips are dual layered, indicating that they were applied in by a liquid in layers underneath the floors, in the guise, say, of a fireproofing application, and there was fireproofing, a retrofit in each of these buildings, above and below the floors that got impacted by the planes in the year prior to 9/11, 2001. So it's very suspect.
Yeah, it could even be done without anybody knowing. It'd be very compartmentalized, right? You mix that stuff up into whatever's going to be applied to the whole core structure, and you don't have to tell anybody what it is.
Yeah, and they had tenants moving all around, and by some researchers' estimates, half these floors were empty. They couldn't fill it. I mean, they were white elephants. This was an albatross. I mean, these buildings were, at the time of 9/11, it was so expensive to abate the asbestos in them. The city was requiring the Port Authority to obey federal laws of asbestos abatement. They had to remove it all from the building. And that was a $5 billion project minimum, according to estimates. Some of them go up to $10 billion. So it made no sense for Larry Silverstein to come in here and invest in these buildings at a cost of $3.2 billion, most all of which was leveraged. He only put in $125 million of his own money, and much of that, I think, was his partner's. So extremely leveraged purchase here of a building that was requiring also billions in mechanical, electrical, and communication systems. It was just severely outdated.
Well, you could probably. Do you know what the price would have been to just tear them down and rebuild them? Probably cheaper than that.
Yeah, well, I mean, and you wonder, but the insurance payout was why they needed to do that. I mean, there was a double insurance payout, I believe.
He ended up with $5.6 billion free and clear from the insurance after only putting in $125 million of his own money.
Wow, that's a good investment.
And a month after 9/11, he was, was it a year? I can't remember. He was, I think it was a year. He was interviewed on America Rebuilds, a PBS miniseries, and he's they ask him about Building 7. He says, "Well, I was talking to the fire commander, and there was such a terrible loss of life. Maybe the smartest thing to do is pull it." And so they gave the order to pull, and we watched the building collapse.
Wow.
Is that still around?
I'm speechless.
Yeah, it is. Yep, I've got it in one of my presentations. It's on. Just go to YouTube and search "Pull It," Larry.
Yeah.
Pull It Larry. That's a good nickname.
Yeah, Lucky Larry, they call him. So we want an investigation of Lucky Larry as well, of course, and the foreknowledge of Building 7's collapse. The BBC announced the collapse of this building 20 minutes before it even happened.
I was actually going to bring that up. Yeah, Corbett always brings that up. Corbett's got that little 5-minute video that is good for. I send that over to some skeptical people sometimes.
Yeah, it's a really good summary. Yeah.
It's fantastic.
Did you guys ever, or did this ever come up in your investigation of the plane actually hitting the side of the building? Like, is there any chance that these were weakened as well? And should that plane like structurally enter that building like a knife through hot butter or a hot knife through butter?
Well, I don't think it's intuitive to any of us what an object, aluminum or otherwise, traveling 500 miles an hour can do to a steel
structure,
framed perimeter structure. I do know that I saw there's pictures of the things that a twister or a tornado can do. There's a photo of a 2x4 that was driven through a 6-inch thick concrete curb, like in the street.
Yeah.
So that's not intuitive. How could a wood 2x4 go through concrete? Well, that doesn't make sense at all. So I don't think people who are running around saying, "Oh, that plane couldn't have penetrated that," I don't think they understand how the building's actually put together either. These perimeter structural steel sections were not welded to each other. There's only 4 5/8-inch round bolts that bolt the top of one perimeter column to the bottom of the next. And these are in sections. So you have 3 vertical columns and 3 horizontal spandrel panels that are welded, but those are in turn bolted. And there's thousands of them all throughout the building. So all the plane had to do was to shear off those 5/8-inch round bolts. And if indeed you look at the photos of the plane impact, it's not a cookie cutter plane-shaped hole. It's very rectilinear, almost like, pixelated, where these orthogonally shaped outline offsets occur. So that's all it had to do. And the plane has a lot of mass. It's not the soft aluminum; it's the overall mass, including the jet fuel, which adds to the mass.
I wouldn't go against the planes getting into the building at all. I mean, I'd be interested to see what happens on the model if you made every column on those 3 floors even fail at the exact same time.
I'm sorry, I had a distraction. Would you repeat that?
I was just saying I'd be interested to see what happens in that computer model, even if you took, like, say, 4 or 5 floors of impact from the plane and just deleted all those columns at once. What happens when those upper 15 floors can free fall into those lower 80 floors?
Oh, yeah. So you're saying allow for a sudden drop without any
resistance
columns initially
for 20 floors or something, or whatever the impact zone was.
Yeah, that could be modeled, and I'll bet you even then it would come to an arresting point. I don't know, 5 to 10 floors. As it began to crush vertical columns that would resist it and at least slow it down.
Yeah, exactly.
There was no slowing down whatsoever. It accelerated almost as fast as a bowling ball falling out of the sky.
Yeah, I think that could be an extra little add-on to show, just like even if we took 10 floors and deleted it all at once, if the plane somehow exploded and deleted everything, ejected it completely out of the way, I still don't think it could. I still think it would just stop someplace or fall off to the side or something.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Yeah, it's one of these things that once you see it, like once you watch this again and watch some of the videos you're doing, you can't kind of unsee it. It's hard to look at it as something besides a demolition at this point.
Yeah, it really is, and that's why we have 2,900 architects and engineers demanding a new investigation. But, even their organizations, my organization included the American Institute of Architects and the American Society of Civil Engineers are not accepting these questions seriously from their constituents. We have 200 AIA members on our petition.
Okay.
And we have gone for 9 years to every annual American Institute of Architects convention and had a booth among the hundreds and hundreds of booths and educated other architects. And they're all going, oh, my God, yeah, this is controlled demolition. Because we show them Building 7 first on the screen. Yeah. And we say, do you know, what does this look like? And that's what they say. And I say, well, did you know this came down on 9/11?
Yeah.
No. Are you serious? Oh. Yeah, this was the third tower. You didn't know about it? You're an architect? No, I didn't either, because no one told us. The American Institute of Architects and the American Society of Civil Engineers have not told their constituency about the third worst structural failure in modern history.
Yeah, that's crazy. Well, thanks for doing all that work. I mean, that's amazing. You guys must get some ridicule. I mean, that's the problem, is there's still a lot of ridicule around this type of thing.
It seems to be getting better, though. Like nowadays, it seems to me like more people than don't buy the 9/11.
Yeah.
They're like, something's fishy there. Whether it's this, that, or the other, it's gaining momentum. And it is that effect. Some people, it's as simple as the 5-minute Corbett video. Other people, it takes a couple. But, I mean, I've seen firsthand 5 or 6 people that, flip. And then once they flip, there's no going back. There's no on the fence. With some things, it seems like there's no tipping point. With people, they'll argue it till they're blue in the face, and that's just it. It's a bias thing. Yeah. But with 9/11, it doesn't seem to be, or at least not anymore. And that could be just because I got into it 12 years after the fact.
Yeah,
that I didn't notice that so much. But I mean, now I notice a success rate, whereas with other topics, there's no success. Yeah. People are like, no, you're nuts.
Yeah.
But with 9/11, it's like you can show them enough, and finally they're like, well,
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So we know you have to go here, Richard, and we appreciate you coming on the show. Is there anything that you think that's just newly come to light, or anything that you want to say before we let you go?
Is anything our listeners can do to help?
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I just want everybody to make an appointment with your local congressperson in the next couple of months. Now, not if you're in Canada. Maybe also if you're in Canada. What the hell?
Yeah.
Take this act and get it reformatted into Canadian structure so that we can get something going there. And there are those who have tried, by the way, and it is very difficult also in Canada to get into the Parliament procedures there. But Elizabeth Mace introduced a petition to call for a new investigation, which was very courageous of her. But those of your listeners in the U.S., email us at congress@AE911Truth.org, and we will help you make an appointment with your congressperson so that you can take this act to them and ask them to introduce it. See, we're looking for a needle in a haystack. We're looking for 1 out of 535 congresspersons who have the accountability, the testicular fortitude to stand up and stick their head up above the rest and take a stand for truth. Boy, you wouldn't think it'd be so difficult, would you?
No, I might know a guy.
No, but thanks for all your work there, Richard.
I'm gonna see. I found a congressman I started following the other day because he seemed like he was kind of cool. His name's Justin Amash, the 3rd District of Michigan.
Oh, that's fantastic. Well, that's what we need to know. We need those kind of hints.
Yeah, I defend liberty and explain every vote.
There you go.
Wow. Do you know anybody in his district?
I do not, but I guarantee you we have a ton of listeners in Michigan. Most of our audience is in the USA, and I know we got a ton of listeners in Michigan. So if Justin Amash is your congressman, let us know. If you're in Michigan, email Architects and Engineers, and they'll let you know who your congressman is.
Yeah, email Congress at AE911Truth.org, and you could be the one, and this could be the congressperson to make it happen and change history. So please don't just assume somebody else is going to do this for you.
Yeah,
but we can do it 10 times in Michigan, the same guy, and he'll get the idea.
Yeah,
that's right. So if you're in Michigan, you could have a special place in history.
Right on. Well, thanks, Richard.
No pressure.
Good luck on 9/11 or September 11th coming up here with your thing there. Good luck with that.
Yeah, thanks, Graham and Darren. I mean, I really appreciate the opportunity to be here, and looking forward to it. Let's report on the results afterward.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Sure.
Maybe we can do this again someday. Yeah, absolutely.
You bet.
Okay, thanks a lot, Richard.
Thanks, guys.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
That was a chat with Mr. Richard Gage.
That flew by.
Yeah, it did fly by. And it's about time. That was a good one.
Yeah.
Felt like that's a good starting point. I think I'm going to chase down some more 9/11 people.
Yeah, we should. I mean, we should have. It's why I don't know. There must be disinformation out there as well, but it's a polarizing topic. I mean, we didn't even have a chance to ask Richard about that type of thing. Like, the flack that AI or Architects and Engineers for 9/11 Truth get from the rest of the 9/11 community. It's interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. I think most of our listeners are probably know where most of them sit. But of course, if you're not, why don't you link to that video in the show notes?
There's a lot of.
If anyone's having trouble, or if you're on the fence with 9/11, or if what Richard is saying is a little too construction or technical for you, Corbett's little 5-minute video there is a pretty good one of all the stuff that's not construction related. It's kind of
almost follow the money kind of
this
thing.
This construction end of it is only like 10% of the whole fucking thing.
Exactly.
Like there's the money thing, there's the pre-knowledge, the insider trading. There's I could go on and on and on and on. They found a passport, but all the concrete turned to dust.
Yeah.
But they found a perfect passport.
Yeah.
Bingo bango.
Yeah, it goes a long way.
It goes a long way. So absolutely, we'll put that link in the show notes. Or at least. Hopefully you will.
Yeah, that was
giving you a note.
Yeah, it was a good chat.
Yeah, it was great. Big thanks to Richard for coming on the show. Big thanks to our supporters who allow us to keep having these sorts of conversations and without any ads or any bullshit or having to be beholden to anyone other than you, the listeners.
Yeah.
So check out grimerica.ca/support, guys. Sign up for a monthly if you can. Do a one-time donation if you can. Of course, any supporters of the show now do get access to the Black Budget feed, which is a couple episodes a month of maybe some more controversial or some less PC stuff, or even some stuff that's just we don't have space where we have a limited amount of shows we can put out in the feed, really. And
why is that?
Well, we'd have to pay more money.
Well, yeah,
then we'd need more
true.
support.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, by the time this comes out, another episode will be in the Black Budget feed.
Yeah, that's right. Recording another one right after this.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Thanks for listening. Support the show if you can. Of course, if you can't afford to support the show monetarily, there's a ton of other ways in the show notes. Check out Graham's doobie-doobie-doo list and do all the things in there. Review the show, rate the show, share the show.
Yeah, get in contact with us.
Yeah, and if you're from Michigan, get a hold of your congressman.
Yeah.
Or congressperson. Congress creature? Chief. Whoa. All right, guys. Thanks for listening, and we will see you next week.
Just a drop in the bucket, baby. Just a single solitary drop in the bucket, baby. Just a drop in the bucket, baby. Just a single solitary drop in the bucket, baby.
Supported the show, I'd be less sick of podcasts.
Sending out good vibes. Good vibes. Good vibes. Good vibes. Good vibes.
108 breaths of deep gratitude and prayers for guidance and protection. And put on a didgeridoo and shamanic drumming track. Shivers or vibrations and stuff like that. 108 breaths of deep gratitude and prayers for guidance and protection. And put on a didgeridoo and shamanic drumming track. Shivers or vibrations and stuff like that. 108 breaths of deep gratitude and prayers for guidance and protection. And put on a didgeridoo and shamanic drumming track. Shivers or vibrations.